Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and open with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ann, would you please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks for everybody for coming to our meeting tonight. This is the March 4th, 2026 meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission. Roll call, please.
Mr. Boggs.
Here.
Mr. Bush.
Here.
Mr. Brewery. Mr. Mancino.
Here.
Ms. Rogers. Here. Mr. Smiley.
Here.
Mr. Truax.
Here. Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum present. We'll proceed right now on the agenda. Old business, we have 3 items and they're all to remain tabled. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, do we have any updates that you want to pass along at this point or?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. New business. Preliminary plan amendment application PP 26001.
So the applicant here is MI Homes of Central Ohio. It's currently zoned R15 medium high density residential. They are requesting approval of an amendment to a preliminary plan of Forest Ridge single family subdivision affecting the remaining 123 lots pursuant to section 1113.14 of the Pataskala Code. Take a look up here. This is the entirety of the development. It's outlined here in yellow. Their single access point is onto State Route 310 here. So a little bit of, I guess, summary of Forest Ridge in general. It's just over 128 acres that was annexed into the city in 2015. There's a pre-annexation agreement that was authorized by council at that time that zoned the property R15 and placed it in the city's utility service area. The preliminary development plan for Forest Ridge was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission in 2021. That was done by the previous owners of the property. When MI bought the property, there was an amendment to the preliminary plan in 2022 that resulted from some further engineering being done when the property was purchased. Current plans for 254 lots, of which 131 through sections 1 through 4 have already been completed. The proposed amendment is to amend the remaining acreage of the development. Again, there'll be no changes to the existing sections 1 through 4, which have already been constructed. So here's a look at the current preliminary development plan, as well as the proposed amendment. And here's kind of an overlay of the new layout on top of the current. So the proposed amendment is going to eliminate the Ruby Road cross street that goes across the stream. It's going to redistribute several lots from the existing stream area throughout the remaining sections, extending Redbud Ridge Drive cul-de-sac to the north. There'll be no changes to the total number of lots in the development. So some statistics for the total site. There's 81 acres remaining of the 128 total. They reduced the acreage in the right-of-way to 16.89. They did reduce the acreage within stormwater facilities down to 2.62 acres. The acreage in open space actually remains unchanged at around 50 acres. Impacts, so wetland impacts have increased from 0.223 acres to 2.112. However, stream impacts have been reduced from 2,832 lineal feet to 665 linear feet. Here's kind of a look at those impacts shown here. So the red areas are what's being impacted. The green areas down here in the stream are what is being taken out of the impacts. Minimum lot area dimensions remain unchanged, as well as the setbacks on the total number of lots. Here's kind of a summary. So originally there were 7 sections in the preliminary development plan. They're proposing 8 now, so you can kind of see the breakdown of how those have changed over time. Again, sections 1 through 4 have already been completed. We're still at 254 lots total. For roadways, again, the Ruby Road has been modified to curve up and continue to the northeast, replacing Deagle Drive. They removed the intersection of Ruby Road and Deagle Drive, and then removed the stream crossing south in the south intersection of Ruby Road and Redbud Ridge Drive. And then the cul-de-sac at the end of Red Bud Ridge Drive is extended to curve towards the north, and they've removed the eyebrow cul-de-sac on Golden Oak Drive. Here's kind of a closer look at the main parts that are changing. So this is the current plan. We'll have Ruby Road continuing on here, crossing the stream. And then here's the proposed amendment that cross street has been removed, with Ruby Road continuing up to the northeast and connecting further up to Ruby Red Bud. Street trees are going to be placed at 1 for every 30 feet. And then for tree replacements, they aren't required under the city's current code, as it was deemed unusable by the Sixth Circuit Court decision that was FP Development versus the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan, 2020. The city has now no authority to restrict the clearing of trees. So in the narrative statement that was submitted by the applicant, they say the current preliminary plan requires significantly more stream impacts than the proposed amendment. In discussions with the Ohio EPA, they indicated that the proposed amendment layout is preferable. The stream impacts to be eliminated are in segments of streams 1, 4, and 7, which are intermittent streams with a headwater habitat evaluation index of between 55 and 59. That is a Class 2 primary headwater habitat, which the OEPA describes as having important water quality, ecological, and economic functions, including sediment and nutrient retention, refuge for native wildlife, energy dynamics, water supply, and aesthetics. The wetland impacts to portions of wetlands D, K, H, and M are going to increase with the proposed amendment. Those wetlands were assessed as modified Category 2 and Category 2 wetlands. Those wetlands are common to Central Ohio and are not regionally scarce. And it was noted that those wetlands have been previously disturbed by agricultural activities, runoff, and selective cutting. So when the Ohio EPA was provided with the current plan and proposed amendment, the OEPA stated, and I'm quoting from their email that they sent, based on a quick look of the layouts and information provided in this email, Alternative C, proposed amendment appears to preferable layout from the standpoint of impacts to the watershed. That email from the OEPA from October of last year is included in your staff. Part of our review, staff would offer the following comments. Sections 1 through 4 have been approved and are either under construction and will not be changing with this proposed amendment. The remaining sections are being reorganized into sections 5 through 8 and will not increase the total number of lots throughout the development. So here's kind of a look. This outlined area in red are sections 1 through 4, which are already been built and will not be changing. The amendment is focusing on what are now sections 5 through 8 in the northeast. The applicant did meet with staff to discuss the alternative layouts for the remaining sections in response to the OEPA's preliminary feedback. First met in July of last year, followed up with a second meeting in November when we directed them to submit for the preliminary plan amendment. A couple comments on the plan itself. They need to show the dimensions of the exterior boundaries of the subdivision on the plan, so the lengths and directions of each of those lines. Add dimensions to the wetland and stream buffer callouts, include mitigation notes for wetland areas that are going to be impacted, and then show the locations of the streetlights in the back sections. Those weren't in there. And as part of preliminary plan reviews, the Public Service Department and the city engineer review stormwater management in a general sense, basically saying what they're proposing should it work in theory. And then the next step when they submit their construction plans, and that's on a per section basis, they actually have to prove that that design is going to work. So that'll involve the actual stormwater calculations and all that stuff that the city engineer is going to be reviewing. And then again, those are typically submitted on a per section basis. Public Service Department had the following comments. The proposed changes resulted from the EPA request to minimize effects to the high quality street that runs through the property. The applicant has worked with the EPA to identify reasonable trade-offs to achieve both parties' goals, and that the stormwater changes will likely have a minimal, if any, additional impact. The city has strict requirements with regard to pre and post development release rates of stormwater. Those will be reviewed with the construction plan. City engineer and the utility department both stated they don't have any comments on this application. Surrounding property to the north is zoned ag and R15, but those are in Harrison Township, which is single-family homes, and Beechwood Trails, single-family home development. To the east is planned development district in the city, which is the Scenic Estate subdivision, as well as R15 in Harrison Township, which is Beechwood Trails. To the south, you've got R15, medium high density residential in the city, which is the previous sections of Forest Ridge, as well as Hazelwood. And to the west, you have R15 as well, which are, previous pages of Forest Ridge, sections 1 through 3. So should the Planning and Zoning Commission choose to recommend approval, the applicant's request all modifications may be considered. One, will the applicant address all comments, questions of the Planning and Zoning Department? Two, after all comments and questions have been addressed, the applicant shall submit a Mylar copy of the revised preliminary plan to the zoning department for signatures and records. And three, pursuant to section 1113.13 of the code, this shall be valid for a period of 2 years from the date of the latest signature on the plan. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Jack. Commission members, do you have any questions for staff on this application? Let's start with Alex.
Yeah, can you go back to the home variation between the different sections?
Yeah.
Just want to see the,
Kind of overlay.
not that one, the one with the actual number of homes that are being constructed in each section. Obviously, they're the same. I just wanted to see where the variations were occurring at in the different levels. Interesting. So I guess one question I kind of have in this conversation is, why is section 1, which was already built, -25, which would imply that they had already kind of planned to do this from the time that they were constructing section 1. So section 1 through 4 are already built as of now.
So with sections 1 through 4, they had their final development plans come through Planning Commission. At that time, they had made some changes to how those sections were going to be laid out. You kind of see section 1 originally was going to come all the way through here, down, and to the back.
Okay.
When they came to the final development plan, they just did this front section here. So instead of building the road all the way to the back with all these lots, they kind of just went 1, 2, 3, and then 4 here.
Okay. But they didn't have to come back and do like a second proposition for that, or because the original, this is like the original proposed versus the now.
So this is the current one. However, when they're just changing like where the line is going to be on that section, they don't have to come back to amend the preliminary plan. As long as they get the final development plan approved by the commission.
All right, okay. Makes sense. No, that's the only question I have. Well,
Thank you. Dan?
I just have one question regarding the tree replacement. Do we have any updates on that concerning if we have any? I remember we had discussed Michigan and how they were working on an alternative plan.
So Canton Township in Michigan was kind of the driver for determining that the tree replacement statutes like we had were determined to be unconstitutional. So looking at Canton, Michigan, they were working to update their tree replacement requirements to see if they can be constitutional. That's gone through a bunch of different iterations. So nothing is finalized that I've seen with them that says this is final and constitutional. We're kind of monitoring to see if there's any way we can adapt what they have, knowing it's constitutional when we adapt it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Tim?
Question around the entrance 310. Was there ever any conversation around a secondary egress to 310 or even something to the northeast of Harrison Township?
Yes, there was a discussion that if you could take it through the end of, I think it was Apple Blossom, because there's right of way there. But then once you get to the end of Apple Blossom, it was a very steep hill, and that would have to be maintained by the HOA, and it was not, it's the emergency access, but then it wasn't conducive for a fire truck to get there, so that's why there was discussion of doing the boulevard entrance, and then further safety with some site distance issues, that's why they added the light.
Okay.
Thanks. David?
I don't have any questions.
Jerry?
Can you pull up that, the landscaping portion? I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it completely and that it's perfect. Okay, so we have no jurisdictional rights on tree replacement, correct? We have 0, but we do still have landscaping plans that have to be met and required as part of the final design, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's what I needed to hear. Thank you. So,
Thanks. Any last minute comments, questions for the staff? Okay. Next, we have the applicant. First, you need to be sworn in, and then
Swear affirm as you read the truth, Michigan.
okay. And if you would start with your name and address, please.
Joel West, MI Homes, 4131 Fourth Avenue, Columbus, 43219. Good evening, commission members. Appreciate you having us here. Jack, thank you for the presentation. Excellent job as always. Before I go back and kind of reset where we started from and where we got to today, I do want to make sure that it's very clear that the reason that we're here to make this modification has been kind of an evolving series of events, I guess, since we purchased the property from Bill Fannin Jr. in 22. Primarily revolving around, obviously, the environmental aspects of the site. We knew it was going to be a very difficult site when we got this in contract. You know, we were anticipating some big developments, in particular the Intel plant and others, but we still believed in the site regardless of the delays, and we really wanted to be in Pataskala. So much so that we designed an entirely new product line to meet your residential design standards and to make the site work. Lots of streams, as I had indicated previously, as well as plenty of wetlands, and the topography itself made it challenging. When we committed to this site, we committed to Bill Fannin Jr.'s prelim plan, which had 254 lots on it. That's what our pro forma was. That's what we got approved through our corporate folks. And I think you guys even may have put a tax increment finance on this property too, assuming that those values would spin off some dollars to help use not only in Pataskala, but also in this district. So the reason we're here, and the only reason, is really because of those streams and how high quality those streams are. We didn't realize it really until we started to try to get through our first stage of environmental permitting, which was those sections or phases 1 through 4. But then with the help, obviously, of the MHT, the environmental scientists there, it became evident that they were pretty special. So that's the reason we're here, is trying to preserve as much as the stream as possible. It's a little bit counter to what we normally do. Normally, we're trying to preserve wetlands everywhere we can. But the uniqueness of the site and the quality of the riverbeds, in particular, stream beds, has caused us to kind of pivot a little bit here in the middle. We were fully committed to doing Bill Fannin's plan, and we realized we've got to a point where we just can't do that, and we have to make some modifications. You'll see in particular, if you really examine the differences in those maps, is that we've eliminated lots where the stream was actually going onto the lots. Previously, we were going to either relocate the streams on those lots, or we were going to fill in the rear yards of them kind of down into the streams. Lots of impacts to the streams. So removing those lots, not touching as much of the stream as possible was the mission. And that's, again, why we're here today primarily. Everything else remains unchanged. The overall plan, the street layout, for the most part, you know, we had to make up a little bit of space, make up for some of the lots by extending the cul-de-sac wall to the north to include those. And then obviously we had to do a few more impacts to the wetlands to accommodate the lots that had to move around and shift around to avoid the streams. So that's why we're here. So going back to the beginning, when we bought this property from Bill Fannin Jr., again, it was we had a plan like this, kind of GIS level, until we really started to get into the site and do some work, particularly the engineering, which is part of the reason why I think it was you who had asked about the phasing modifications. The first change was obviously a big one with the first section, but it was initially laid out like that to get to the water line that exists on Scenic View Estates property off of the Gila Drive extension in Hazelwood. So that's why it was originally intended to go that way in the prelim engineering. But when we started the first phase, we discovered the tie-in just directly to the south of that phase. So there was no need to go through all those woods, do all that clearing, do an environmental permitting to get it out there. We're at the stage now where I believe we just made that water connection by actually boring underneath the trees so that we would minimize damage. That was at the request of staff to do that. And then obviously the other modifications to the phasing was really just from an engineering standpoint, where the infrastructure was intended to serve and the base was intended to serve the lots. So there's always a little bit of tweaking. But again, we're here today. We started this project from an environmental standpoint, kind of taking a two-phase approach. The first phase was really just focused on, the agricultural fields that made up sections 1, 2, and 3. It's fairly easy. There wasn't any streams for the most part, except for obviously crossing the entrance. There was one there, but it was relatively simple. Then we got to phase 4, where we went across the stream. And in that first stage of our environmental process, we realized through our research and the assistance of our environmental scientists at EMHT that stream was in pretty bad shape, at least from an erosion standpoint. I have photos too, if you guys would like to see those. But with 3 streams kind of converging into one right there, the velocity that was coming through there really was tearing up the banks. In some photos, and Heather here can attest to this and talk about the nuances between the streams and the wetlands too, if you're interested in that. But some of the banks were, taller than the ceiling in some ways, and there's how bad it was eroded. So we had concerns ourselves of the future of some of our customers' yards if it continued to erode and erode and erode over time. That would be a detriment to our customers, as well as a potential headache for you all and staff here having to, field calls related to the erosion and the stream. So what we did with the MHT's help is we actually did a restoration project of the stream. The limits, I can't quite recall the linear foot of stream that was done. But it did cost several $100,000. We completed it last year. It looks wonderful. It's really probably the nicest. The streams are the amenity at Forest Ridge. And this one in particular looks fantastic. So I encourage you maybe all to go out there and check it out this summer. It's really pretty. So we did that restoration of the stream. We did our permitting that was necessary for that, as well as a couple wetlands that isolated wetlands that we had to remove. But then we got through that, and we were looking at remaining sections to the north, in particular, additional impacts to the stream. We had 2 roadway crossings, as well as the locks and other things like that, grading, retention. They all were kind of like trying to jam all of this in, to a small little area. And we realized that we needed to do something a little bit different. So we started the second stage of our environmental permitting, which required a more robust submittal, individual permit, as it's called, which can take up to a year to get done. As part of that submittal, you're required to do alternative plan analysis with that and submit other options that could minimize the impacts over the existing plan, which is what we did. We prepared a handful of options, and even though it's difficult to get any feedback preliminarily out of the EPA, they were able to at least send us a note that says, yeah, we kind of like this one better. But before we did that, we met with staff because we didn't want to submit something, obviously from an environmental standpoint that was being approved, that we couldn't come here and get approved as well. So we had kind of these two things that we were juggling. So we were proactive. We came in and we talked to your staff and actually kind of worked through all of the alternatives. And the alternative that we actually came up with, that was the preferred one, was really a collaboration with staff. We hadn't brought that one to the table. It was just an option. It hinged on that removal of the one section of the roadway that kind of connected the two on that loop that kind of goes around in the north section. That was critical because it helped not only free up another almost 200 linear feet of stream impacts, but it also opened it up so that we had more room for our engineers to kind of work the grade and get the retention basins in there to help support those. Otherwise, again, it was kind of like you're really cutting into things and really impacting the stream. So it worked out fairly well from that standpoint. So we ended up, and Jack put the numbers on the screen, we ended up with a very significant over 2,100 linear foot stream that we preserved from the original plan, which was substantial. To the detriment, though, obviously, of an additional 1.8 acres of wetland impacts. But again, if you want to get more detail on that, Heather for sure can come up and give you information. So that being said, we're at the point now where we're here tonight to get this alternative plans amendment approved by you all so that we can kind of move forward with the final few phases of Forest Ridge. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions from commission members, Ann?
No.
Tim?
I'd like to hear about your thoughts on the woodlands and the impact to it. I imagine you'll hear comments from public for that. So
To the wetlands themselves.
to the woodlands, actually, the trees.
Oh, well, the plan for the site was obviously had a lot of trees on it, except for the farm field. The clearing of the trees is only necessary for our phases for engineering. So, for example, the phases that are to the north that are still yet to come, 5, 6, 7, 8, I believe it is, 5 through 8. The engineering plans will detail what the extents of the tree clearings are. That's approved by your development director, public works director, and their outside consultants. And then we clear those trees only when we're going to start the phasing. So.
Okay. Great, I'm good. Next. David?
No questions.
Jerry?
No questions, sir, no.
Thanks. I have none. Alex?
No questions here either.
Okay, not, excuse me, thanks. Stand by.
All right, I will. Thank you.
Next we'll go to
Mr.
period
Cox,
4. Yes.
Before we start public comments, I will mention, I believe Mr. Cutler's here to speak.
Mhm.
He did submit some photographs which were up on the day. So,
Okay.
So it's his turn to speak. Those are his comments.
Okay, thank you. Before we start the public comment period, just run through some quick rules. We have a fairly good sized crowd, so we're going to do our 3-minute limit per speaker. Jerry will be the timer. When your time runs out, you'll hear the signal and wrap it up as quickly as you can. Some other rules here. You only have one opportunity to speak. You can't give your time to somebody else. Let's see. When you're up, you come forward, Lisa will swear you in, and then you use the microphone up here. Address the commission, not the rest of the audience. And Yeah, you'll be called only if you have a speaker request form. So if you have not filled one out and you want to speak, you have the forms there, Lisa? Okay, thank you. And above all, be respectful. Don't do name calling or insults. Okay, thank you.
First one we have is Brian Cutler. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Look, Mission, my name is Brian Cutler. I live at 204 Leafy Drive in Scenic View Estates. And my home's property is directly to my west. One of the things I wanted to point out, which I did not hear tonight, is I see that they're adding to wetlands, but in the diagrams that I saw, they are building 2 new lots in an area designated by wetlands, which was shown on the chart you had that shows pink. I'm looking for the one that had pink in it. Try one forward.
I'm not quite sure which, was it this one or?
Well, I can show you where in this area, excuse me. So I'm in lot 4 in Scenic View. This is, their phase 4 ends right before you get into my property. And there's wetlands in this area, and they showed that they added two homes in that area. It's not on that lot, in their revised one, they added 2 homes. So I had 3 points I wanted to make. First, this was brought up, I lost, and I understand it's outside the control, but I wanted to comment, I lost 400 feet of trees behind my property. So as a result, I have high winds. I've already had a tree snap off 10 feet off the ground and had it gone towards the house, it would hit the house. I have a gas fireplace, gas stove technically, and it will blow out now at times due to the winds at my property. The second thing I wanted to address, and that's the picture that you have there, is tree damage at the property line. Lot 3, which is in the MI development. It's on MI's property. They lost a tree that was standing, and I think it's due to root damage. I'm showing you a picture on my property. The tree is on my property. You can see a yellow pin on the ground on the property line. You can also see they've severed the main taproot, I believe, of the tree by putting in the orange pipeline. I'm not sure what that is. So that tree is likely going to die, and I'm wondering what MI's policy is. That's not 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
I wonder what MI's policy is in regards to replacing trees that they've damaged.
Okay,
That tree is 15 inches in diameter. I do want to comment quickly. I have 2 other trees 9 feet off my property line. One of them is 48 inches in diameter. My arborist said it's 250 years old. The canopy clearly goes over the property line. I'm very concerned about losing that tree. And I'm sorry, 30 seconds?
3 minutes is what it was, sir. That was 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Linda. Mark Erickson. Do you swear or affirm the testimony of this truth and what you have to
I do. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Erickson.
I've been an environmental consultant since 1982. I'm Lot 5, which is the one that's opposite the area that's most affected by the proposed development from, as far as wetlands fill of the new properties. I don't, Jack, I'm gonna give you, see if you have this. I do want to point out, so my lot's right here, right? You
Okay.
have that? So I want to point out that the Jack brought up the letter from the EPA. I know it's been talked about. There's 2 paragraphs to that email. The first paragraph is what Jack said, and it was posted. The second paragraph says, in no way, shape, or form does the Ohio EPA agree or commit to the process unless there's additional work that's done. My long story short point is, there's an awful lot of things that need to happen. They keep on changing the layout, they keep on adding additions. If the number of properties is 254, right, that's what they're gonna stick to, I guess. Why make changes? It's already been approved. Why are they doing this? It doesn't make any sense. I will be talking to the Ohio EPA, just because that's the nature of what I do. And I will make sure that these guys are following whatever requirements are there if it gets approved. My point is, let's table this until all the answers are done, and then we can move forward with the correct process. My property line, I walked it today, I don't know where it is. There's construction all over the place. There's no demarcated line between on my lot line that abuts the property. I walked the wetlands. There are areas where there's wetlands flags that are right next to the construction zone. I understand that there's supposed to be a buffer. I don't see a buffer in some of the places, so I'd much rather have them. I'll work with them. I am opposed to the process, okay, for this construction, especially opposite my property. There's no grading plan. We don't know how high that house is gonna be. Anyway, the point is, there's a tremendous number of things that need to be done, before I feel that the board should approve or disapprove the process of amending the construction plans. Right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kyle Paul.
I have none.
Okay. Joe Rick. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did. Thank you. Good afternoon, evening. So my name is Joe Rick, and I live at 206 Lazy Drive. It is a couple of several hundred feet to the east of the MI property line with Scenic View Estates. I was really excited when I moved into Pataskala back in '23 because of the unique neighborhood, the development that Dimitri was developing at Scenic View. Although I had expected there would be some changes in the MI property, I never envisioned that the changes would be as significant as they were when Phase 4 was approved about this time last year. So, and we were actually present at that commission zoning meeting when MI requested approval to move forward with Section 4. It was a little bit misleading, in my opinion, in that in the application, MI had implied that there would be some type of buffer zone along their property line with Scenic View Estates. And when the tree clearing started to occur, it was quite surprising how significant that tree removal was. Having lived there all of last year, for 2 years now of it, in particular last year when those trees were removed, I can attest that, in the area where the trees were removed, there has been, and there will continue to be significant tree damage to the property owners on Scenic View Estates. I have witnessed 3, 4 significant sized trees that have been blown over with relatively light winds. So as we continue to clear with this proposed change, I think that damage on Scenic View Estates neighbors will continue to happen and be significant. The other point that I'd like to bring up, although the majority of my property is buffered by other Scenic View property owners, as those trees are removed, I mean, we I think I can speak for others here as well. You know, we purchased property because of the dense, wooded area that was there, and try to have some privacy and just be living somewhere different. I can tell you that looking out my backyard now, in the homes that MI has already built, phases 1 through 3, section 4 is not done. The roads are still incomplete, so there's no homes there. So once those homes are there, I mean, the view that we have now and the view that attracted me to Pataskala and that particular property is going to disappear if we're permitted to do just a clear cutting all the way up to the property line like they did with.
It's time, sir. Sorry.
So my ask is that MI consider, I mean, they went through alternatives, but there may be other alternatives where we can provide some additional protection to Scenic View homeowners by maintaining a buffer zone with those large trees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doesn't go off. It's comes down. Let's get it on the new one.
Daniel Mahoney. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give us a truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Hi, my name is Daniel Mahoney. I live at 963 Middle Ground Road, Southwest, which is at the end of the cul-de-sac that's being proposed. And my issue is, I've heard a lot about the studies done for the stream that is on the property for phase 2, 3, 4, whatever those are. But has anyone done any kind of studies on any of the streams? Like, I have a stream that goes through my yard, and when we moved in, it's eroded so much that we actually had to have our electric redug underneath the creek. And I just don't know if anybody's really considered what the impact on our property is going to be as far as drainage, also trees. I have like an 80-foot oak tree in my backyard. And I'm just wondering who would be responsible if this is changed and damage is done to my property, my neighbor's properties, and also just what the wetland impacts are now. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Lewis. Do you swear or affirm that testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Good evening. My name is Blair Lewis. I'm an engineer and attorney, and I represent Scenic View Estates. You've heard some of the homeowners we have from Scenic View talk about some of the issues, and there are going to be others. But we believe there are issues that need to be resolved before the plan of amendment is approved. We ask that it be tabled. You've heard about the trees. That's one of the big issues. I don't know if you guys have been out to this site or not, but there's a couple hundred yards of gigantic trees that have been affected. A couple of them have fallen. And we've hired an arborist, and he talked about how if they continue the way they have, more trees will be affected, existing and future, all along the development. At least one has fallen, and the homeowner who owns that lot will speak in a minute, I believe. There are other issues. We talked about the buffer zone between the two developments. We think that's an important issue. But the other biggest issue is the drainage off the property. As we heard, it's been amended. We've heard there are future other amendments that are going to be implemented or proposed. We know that's affecting our property, and we want to make sure that's all figured out before they proceed. We haven't seen how that's going to affect the wetlands on our development or the streams on our development. We know that some of the water is going to drain onto our development and our property. We're afraid of flooding on a couple of the properties. That's all I have. We believe it should be, this amendment should be, this proposal should be tabled until all these issues are resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Erickson. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about this truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dawn Erickson. I will live at 300 Levi Drive, Lot 5. Mark, my husband, the Conservation Commissioner and hydrogeologist, is the one that spoke earlier. I'm coming at it from a different viewpoint. Obviously, I care about the aesthetics of my home that we are investing $1 million to build. So we purchased our land knowing that there was wetlands that abutted that property. Matter of fact, we paid designers and architects and surveyors to place our property or our home on that property so that we could have the best visual home in our, what we thought might be our last and final home. We have a number of windows. We have positioned them over the maximum spot to look at all of that beautiful nature, and that's why we're waiting for it, including some windows that overlook the wetlands that are looking to be relocated right now. So have great concerns about that. These changes would greatly impact our views of our home and would negatively impact our property values. And I think about external obsolescence as well, and would think about our property value being decreased because aesthetically it is not as visually appealing. Matter of fact, had we known that this could happen to wetlands that we, thought were controlled by the EPA, we probably would have looked in another place. And certainly if we had decided to buy this property, we would have paid much less than what we would have paid for this property. But we did pay what we paid, knowing that the wetlands were there and provided a buffer for us to the abutting property. So I have issue with the wetlands going away and homes being built so close. I also do have concerns about the erosion onto our property, the tree damage. I do agree that I think we should table this until there is a more in-depth study. But if not, I would like for a very large financial remediation to be put in escrow by MI for the homeowners of Scenic View Estates to be used as our deforestation happens because of the damage, the erosion. I do have the stream that goes through the back of my property. That is why I bought that property. Our house abuts the back, so the changes that they make do negatively affect my property and the value. In summary, I would just like to say, MI bought that property knowing all of the limitations that it brought. They just bought it a few years ago. So I'm sorry that they want to make changes now, but they bought that with that being approved, and now they're negatively affecting those that are abutting us. So thank you for listening to us. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Making sure. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give us is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Good evening, committee. Good evening, staff. My name is Dmitry Filanenko. I'm representing Simcoe State, and in this case, particularly lot 7. I'm a developer. Main business. Together with 7 minutes, I will try to talk about most important facts. We heard this nice speech about lower impact on streams. And I want to highlight a few things so you get a better picture. And talk about the property, if you just can switch to backline for what they're going to do when it's got a retaining pond next to our property. If you look in detail what's happened, this retaining pond actually drained right to lot 7. It's not draining to storm system, it just discharged directly to their neighbor property. Down, it's about 60 foot, it's a stream, which, in my opinion, speaking so brightly about how they're gonna protect streams, but water from the streets, with oil and salt and everything from fertilizing from the lots will just drain the property, maybe create additional wetlands. Downstream, we have 3 wetlands. I have proof I can show that changes in 15 years. We got triple size of wetlands, and they switch categories too. It's keep growing. So, I consult with engineers, and they said, yes, it's look like they change in direction, and it's more water will be coming to this retaining pond, which basically like a cup. If it's a lot of rain, just go overflow and just flow down to the stream. And it's not going to storm system. It's just going to the stream, which they so much want to protect it. This is, I know process. I understand they want to get concept and do engineering after that, but without seeing really how grading will work after they get this job done. It's so premature to tell this plan will work. Even the old one, it's still showing it's discharging to the pond. We have retaining pond and it's discharging to storm system, which means after this it's get clean. This water will not get clean. This just get down to the stream. And I look at research, and they do not research what discharged to us. It's only applied to what's going to MI development. So if you look carefully through the email which was presented, basically a high PA just saying, we need to see what the public impact would be and get calculations and more information to be approved. It wasn't approved. They didn't see information. This is what they asked for as well. Grading, discharge, calculation. It needs to be tabled so Jack and Scott can take really good look and see how it will be impacted. It's too early, They need to move forward, we understand, and I totally feel their, needs, but it's a lot of people get affected and you see them affected, so.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Ruby,
No comment at this time.
Mr. Gladden. Sorry,
You're
I'm so
good.
sorry. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you want to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ray Vladisik. I'm owner of the property lot 6 in the Sinekview Estate. My understanding, basically, I'm just new in this development, but my understanding of what MI brought up earlier, you didn't build the 25 houses in phases 1 through 4, so now you're gonna try to squeeze all these lots, and they're gonna affect, looks like, directly to Sinekview Estates. You're adding couple of homes right in the corner of the lot 6, and I don't think, honestly, there's enough room there, but, that tells me you're gonna get enough room, so you're gonna clear all these trees alongside the property with my lot, like you did in lot 1 through 5, basically there's no tree left on any property, so everything's gone. So you're gonna do the same thing to lot 5 and 6, I would assume. So I don't think that's fair, to us at Scenic View. And also, like Dimitri mentioned, that the detention pond on the 7, it's probably gonna, when it overflows, it's gonna build on a creek, and that's gonna affect my drive, my culvert that goes into my property at lot 6. So there's a lot of issues, looks like, with this development. So if you didn't build 25 houses in phase 1 through 4, you can, take advantage of our, properties and the practice squeeze those lots in. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria? Please wait for testimony of the truth, nothing but the truth, so yeah. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Maria Bandong, and I live on the house still in building. But my property is on 202 Lazy Drive, Pataskala. The reason I'm here is to voice my concern. First is safety. And when I heard about, and I went over to, when I stood the tree that fell, and that really shocked me because before I bought the house, before I bought the land, I thought it was perfect. Locations, the backyard was perfect. There were a lot of trees, something like that. And not knowing that in my homes will, being to project there. And my concern started, but not really concerned that time. However, since it started this, this incident that's happened, and I got too much, it really make me think too much about my safety, the house safety. Because think about it. Just a tree falling a tree, it's just scary. What if I am just, mowing the tree, mowing the grass, or doing something in my backyard, and suddenly a tree falls on me or the house or somebody else. And I also wonder how many trees has been affected there that might happen. So, I don't know how many pictures have. You might not see it really well, but this is a big tree. It's a long, straight tree, and it takes many years to have a tree like that. So losing it, that was, that was too many years to have one tree of those, one of the trees. So I hope there's something you guys could do for that. I don't know, it's too late. I already looked at it, so that's my concern. Yeah, that's why I can, I would like to bring out here. Yes, safety for me and the house, of course, and my neighbors. All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Elena?
Yeah.
Please swear or affirm the testimony about the witness the truth, or truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Hello, good evening. My name is Elena Kahana, and I'm owner of lot number 2. I'm afraid I'm going to what the other people said, but I kind of feel it's very emotional that I have to say that. Basically, my lot had wetland that was approved not to have it. I was not during that hearing, so I didn't know that it will happen. Then my decision to buy this lot, and I was one of the first actually to purchase the property in the state, that the back of the lot has huge wetland. Now it will be 3 houses, smart in front of the lot. All trees were removed. I understand MI has right to do whatever they want with their property, but I think it's unfair and not by law to decrease property value for their neighbors. Okay, I understand they need to place the houses, they need profit, absolutely everyone wants, but they cannot damage and decrease value of the neighbors. What is happening now that all the trees cut like millimeter from the property line. I have few huge mature tree, like more than 100 years old, it's still standing. The tree have a root system, it's been damaged. It's like few feet away, so it will fall. Now, if it will kill someone, it will be a totally different issue. Right now, not me, not my kids will not wander there. I'm afraid. Little bit wind, the tree will fall. So basically what I'm facing now, decision to remove them ahead of time, and every cut will cost more than $5,000. It's huge increase. Now, I'm not talking about aesthetic. It looks ugly, nothing that when I was buying the property. I think it's a little bit unfair. We all know that MI will charge premium for any lot that has few trees, so they know the value of the trees. Now that, I don't know, it's maybe 50% of the value that left. It's really unpretty looking. Well, ecological impact we know, and it's really, really bad impact on property. I don't think it's good, not for us, not for Pataskala City. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last one I have is burning brush, but it's gonna be okay. Or how much is it?
I can read though, after this one, I'm under the old business you went on. I wanted to talk about the data center, but I think this one is pretty good, but I just started. I'm going,
I think the other one's on the table.
Yeah.
We moved past that, so we do have other business after this application, we still got other business.
Well, that would be nice. Normally, we would take the stuff that's tabled first or told business, and say that there is comment. And that was okay. I mean, to Rick, he's the chairman, he runs the business, the meeting he wants to, so I appreciate you calling me in. I'm getting an education.
No others? Okay. Would you like to, you have an opportunity to respond to some of the comments?
Have to restate my name.
Yep.
Joel West, MI Homes. I'm happy to see everybody turn out. This isn't obviously the first time that we've heard from adjacent residents or any property that we've developed. Certainly, private property is private property, right? We have done nothing unlawful at all, or outside of our existing approvals that you all have granted us, our engineering plans that have been reviewed by staff, all things above board. I mean, we've been in business here in Central Ohio for 50 years. It's our 50th anniversary, so we tend to follow the rules and know what we're doing. We're very good at it, and we're professionals. MHT themselves, 100 years this year they've been around. Professional engineers, planners, scientists, very much know what they're doing as well. So I can state for a fact that there is nothing that we're doing that would detrimentally impact Scenic View Estates beyond potentially the very property line and a few of those trees. And that happens on every site, right? We have an approved plan, and honestly, it was approved in 2021, was it originally, Jack? I think you said 2021 by Bill Fannin.
Original plan was approved May 5th, 2021.
21. So I don't know specifically when the first house was built at Scenic View Estates, but this plan existed. And Bill Fannin, I know for a fact, has been working on it, and his dad for 20 years prior to getting this approved. Some research into what's going on adjacent to your property, before you choose to purchase is always good due diligence. And this plan didn't exist, so we have a property that we're building our homes on in a market that needs housing and needs housing for local residents that might be different than other housing, right? And what we've done here with this amendment is no different than what it was back in 2021. The lots that we have along that line were approved. Engineering plans were done, clearing plans were done, and it is a bit shocking, when you've had all these woods behind your house and then they're gone. And I understand that, and we deal with it all the time. We don't like taking down trees, but we also have to build houses. It's our job and it's our mission as a company to continue to build out Central Ohio and provide opportunities for people to live in nice communities. And that's our mission. So if you look at the map, and actually I think Jack had the original one and our revision, all those lots that are along or share, I guess, property line, the Scenic View Estates, were there in the original plan. No, sir. Sorry. They were there in the original plan.
Excuse me.
But-
Excuse me.
Please.
That is the original plan. Those lots along the property line were always there. We haven't changed that. The only thing that we did was we relocated 2 lots to avoid the stream impacts. That, again, are very high quality streams. And we placed them in locations where we could still impact them wetlands, and I acknowledge that. Although we didn't go all the way to the property line on that, I believe potentially the homeowner of that lot that's adjacent to it reached out to our office, may have spoken to Jason Francis, who was our land development director, who's no longer here, and had communication with him in regards to that. We've also heard from several other folks, both from the ravines at Hazelwood to the south, Hazelwood itself, as well as some of the residents of Scenic View Estates when we did the clearing. Specifically related to the fact that, yes, our lots go all the way up to the property line. That's not unusual. We do have to take down trees in order to build the infrastructure in the lots. In particular, in the back of the lots, we need to install storm systems, pipes, catch basins, as well as the swales to make sure that we capture that water and we keep it on site, which our engineers are very good at. I have an exhibit here that I think addresses a lot of the questions as it relates to erosion and flooding, because we did receive a letter from Scenic View Estates attorney just, I believe, a day or 2 ago. In response to this meeting, our attorney in-house reviewed that. I think had a talk with Mr. Blair and walked through those issues. Before that, we had someone, I can't remember what lot it is, but it's the first one to the south, in which we were also putting the water line in. They had a tree fall there, potentially from our excavation for the rear yard utilities and electric. We acknowledge that, yes, sometimes that trench can hit some of the roots on trees that may or may not be either on the property line or the other side of the property line or our side of the property line. But the question there is, you know, who ultimately is responsible for a tree whose roots are underground or whose leaves are over top of someone else's property? We have taken the approach, and we've already done this for several sites out there. If one of those trees doesn't make it and falls down, which is currently the case with another tree that we were just made aware of, we've gone out and we've taken care of the tree. We've removed it for them, and we've cut it down and we've taken it off the site. We will continue to do that. It's just being a good neighbor, you know, within reason, obviously. We're not responsible for all trees on our site, but certainly the ones along the property line that could be impacted, we'll continue to talk with those folks and make sure that it's right. But other than that, the line is the line. And, we have to move forward with our development, like I said, as it's already approved, with just these very, very minor modifications. So that's the trees. And, you know, obviously we could go into great detail on trees. There's a number of factors that affect the trees, disease, wind. Obviously, yes, when you take out a bunch of trees that haven't been exposed to wind previously, they could get damaged from that. They could suffer. There's no doubt about that. But again, this plan was approved. It's gone through all the processes. We've done everything we need to do on our property. So it's an issue, but we'll continue to be good neighbors and work with them as long as they reach out to us. So far, everybody that primarily has reached out to us has been through an attorney, which we don't really need. We're happy to sit down with folks and have that conversation. But again, it has to be within reason. So that's the trees. I want to address the property line obviously should be very clear. We pin all of ours, it's staked. So that I don't believe is an issue. I've already referred about the plan approvals. The fact that this plan has been approved now for several years and available if coming into the office to review as well as online. The erosion and the flooding, I do want to address that because I've heard that thrown out a couple times here. The site, our site in particular, you know, the high point is all the way to the north of the site, in the wooded area already. It all drains basically southwest from our site, and I'll pass around this exhibit because I have it prepared just in case this question came up. Everything drains through our site, even Scenic View Estates. For the most part, there's a ridge partway through it, and you can see it on this map, where it drains to a stream that then comes onto our site. It's part of that three-stream, confluence that we had to repair because of all the damage that was done over the years, eroding the banks and potential detriment in the future for our residents. Not only that, there's a portion of Scenic View Estates, at least 2 or 3 of the lots, that share our boundary, that are actually within our tributary area for one of our basins on site. That stormwater, both before it was developed and after it developed, will come onto our site using our infrastructure, our catch basins that we put in the ground and go to our pond to discharge. Could we go to Scenic View Estates and say, hey, we're taking some of your responsibility in terms of you discharging stormwater on our site, and we would like you to pay a proportionate share of our stormwater detention that is doing this. But we don't do that. It's unnecessary, right? It's a big picture thing. It's just a matter of the process and the flow of the site and the water. We took that on. It was in our engineering plans. It was designed to take on that water from their site, and we did it without any request for compensation. So I'll pass this map around here and show that to you so that you guys have a better idea of the stormwater drainage. A gentleman, let's see if I think it was Daniel maybe? Is that right? Daniel? live north of our site, the only one that doesn't live in Scenic View Estates, and yeah, I don't think there's anybody here from Ravenna, Hazelwood, or Hazelwood, because there were several folks there that we took care of their trees as well, although they may have been dead prior to us doing anything. But to his concern, again, all of that water from the north drains all the way south through all those woods, through those 3 streams, down to the site. And our portion of that property, past that, will have no impact north of that area. And if for some reason there is, we'd be happy to sit down with them, meet them on site, and go through those issues and compare. That's what we do. We've been here for 50 years, it's our headquarters. You know, we're very proud to work in Central Ohio, and we have no problem meeting with our neighbors and resolving issues. Face to face is always the best way to do it. So let me pass this around, if that's okay. Sure. So this has 2, these are the same, but this is kind of the pre-development before we did any work in this area. And this is what it's going to like post-development. This line here is kind of the high point of Scenic View Estates, which is here. So the water goes this way into the stream that comes onto our site, and it goes back this way onto our site. This is that area that's talking about those first 3 lots that we actually take on their stormwater and bring it over to one of our basins. So just for reference, you kind of have that.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's see, other issues. I talked about property lines, I talked about land approval, I talked about the trees. Again, we will, within reason, have conversations with individual homeowners, as the ones on that we share property, right? And we will work with them on any issues that may arise. I know we had some ask for, through an attorney, some type of escrow or some other thing, if for whatever reason, any trees on the property. And that's just as fair to us. Again, we're operating under approved plans with approvals and permits in place. This is no different than any other site. And again, whatever we do has been approved, is already on the books. This modification really only to help preserve as much stream as possible, because it is the key elemental feature on the site, all the streams. So, if there was something that I didn't address, I'd be happy to talk to you guys about that. If there was something on your list that I skipped over, I'm trying to walk them together a little bit there. So.
Okay. So yeah, we'll give commission members another opportunity to ask questions. Tim, I think you're from.
Yeah. Just a quick question. I appreciate your offer to your residents around you to remove trees and what have you that's fallen down. Any of those situations where it was clear that you as a builder impacted those trees, did you offer to replace them?
So we didn't, when we have our site, and in particular, this one we're talking about is section 4, which was wooded previous to our development. But again, the plan was approved. This is a prelim plan that gave us approval to do all of these impacts. And it's only, and I know there was a reference to us coming in and getting approval of phase 4 just a couple months ago. That's different. That was a final development plan approval, which really was just a step in the process to conform with the prelim plan. And it's part of going through the final engineering process to the platting and to the final development plan. So all of that is under the umbrella of the approvals that were given as part of the prelim plan. It wasn't a new approval. It was just, showing compliance with the prelim plan. So on that's phase 4 that was referred to earlier on. So we, as part of the engineering plan, have a tree clearing plan. We mark that state, and then it's professionally clear. And in particular, if we get to the property line, we want to make sure that we're not taking out any trees that cross onto somebody else's property. It's just, it's the way you do business. You don't go on somebody else's property and do this. So I'm very positive that we didn't remove any trees past our property line. And if we did, by accident, one of our contractors got a little squirrely on it, then certainly we would look into doing a replacement for folks like that. And I think actually we did commit to some additional trees to that particular lot down there on the south end, as well as remove there. But again, it's for development purposes to develop lots that, yes, may be different than the ones in scenic view estates, but they're still important. And they're important in the mission of having more residents, not only here, but in our region as well. So to answer your question, as it relates to trees, be very careful. And if we do remove them by accident, we'll replace it. And if there's any impacts to those trees, not from wind, but from our excavation of utilities, we will examine that and we will take care of the problem. Just like there is one that was pointed out earlier, that a tree fell down on, I don't know, it's like maybe fourth or fifth one up, but we were just notified of that through, I think, potentially, it was part of the letter from Mr. Blair, the attorney. Normally we would just call up the homeowner, go meet with them on site, look at it, and take care of business. But in this case, we had to have our attorney talk to their attorney. But I'm sure we will go out there and we will remove the tree if in fact it is our fault.
Thank you. Yep, thanks. David?
I don't have any questions.
Jared?
Your offer to, if something happens or you've said that, you take care of it, Nat, is there a moratorium to that timeline? Like if all your houses are sold and done and then something happens, so that's my question.
Yeah.
So are you still willing to take care of that for them?
I think, that's a great question.
And I know it might be a legal thing, but I'm just asking a question.
No, it's a great question. And it's a very difficult one to really detail out because, how much time is enough time before you say it's good and it's not our fault. It's happened for some other reason, right? I've been at MI now for 8 years and we still take care of issues from homeowners that have been in their houses for 25 plus years. Part of me, when I first started, I was like, I don't understand it. Why are we dealing with somebody who's had an issue 25 years removed from actually buying our house? But it goes again to the philosophy that was established by our founders, that we take care of our customers. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Now, these folks aren't our customers, but certainly they're our neighbors, right? So I would say that generally, without committing to a specific time frame, that those lots in particular that are along there within the next 3-4 years while we're still building out here, there's plenty of time to probably see any damage from any roots that might have got destroyed. The tree's not going to last very long if that's the case, particularly within a 3 or 4 year time frame. Again, we'll meet with that individual lot owner and we'll have conversations about what we can do to remove the tree from our property if it in fact does fall down. But again, other factors, disease, age, there's multiple things, multiple issues that could be responsible for that. But for the most part, this is such a small area. We're only talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4.5 lots that share our frontage along there. Those are the ones that we have no problem meeting with and have an understanding of. If we want to go out there and we want to document the trees as they stand today, we can do that. And if there's any changes within the time frame that we're building out, we'll meet with those folks and we'll take care of it. So just being a good neighbor is
No more questions at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's important because I don't know who's doing the evaluation, but there should be an arborist involved to assess the potential damage from any roots that might be disturbed during the construction. It may be longer than 3 years. I mean, I've seen examples. I couldn't cite exactly how long, but it's probably 5 or 7 years. Just a casual observation. I'm not an arborist, so.
Yeah, the challenge obviously with arborists, we have as well. It's almost like, get two lawyers involved, and ask them, are you in this one, are you in this? An arborist, oftentimes they'll default. Oh yeah, it's gonna go. Which again, we have no issue having these conversations with the residents. We ask that, they could do it just by calling in and having a conversation with us as opposed to doing it through legal representation. But certainly if that's the matter that they choose to do, we can do that as well. I would be happy again to commit to meeting with all 5 of those lot owners and having those discussions as we continue to work through our bill.
Okay, and let me ask Jack, Scott, Michaela, EPA, there were some comments made from the public comment section that perhaps the EPA approval was still not complete. Is that, could you?
They have to submit their plan, and until they submit that permit, the plan, and apply for that permit to the EPA is not going to comment and say it's good or bad. This is why they said, based upon the collections of different options you've shown us, we like this one the best, but we're not saying this is absolutely approved and will not have issues. I think what MI is trying to do is say, if I can get my preliminary plan revision approved, then we'll move forward to file that with the EPA.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions in regard to, well, first I want to make a clarification that I now understand better about the separation of the section 1 and the changes in the housing. Because I was looking at some of the historical documents here. Originally, section 1 went from the entrance all the way back and was part of section 4. And so that minus 25 homes, which is this red section right through there, the reason why it changed is not because they actually changed the number of homes or even changed the way the housing were being built, but because they literally sectioned it off in the sections differently. The actual plan itself did not realistically change from the time one to the time one. I just want to make sure that clarified that, because I was confused initially, and I think some of the residents were also confused, is that those numbers look pretty drastic change-wise, right? Now, with that being said, I obviously have some concerns about water and water flow direction related to residents around here. I did see the sheet that you showed where the water flow happens, specifically in that scenic estate space and where it's flowing down. That makes sense. I can see that in the topography areas right through here. The question I actually have related to this is more on that north side area where you're taking a fair chunk of the wetlands up there. Now, obviously that displaces water and where water sits. And so my question is on that top one, because the one that you provided did not have any arrows specifically for that area, is that water flowing also down, or is it splitting and going both directions?
It's a great question. I almost have to look at that again. What I've been told, and maybe this one actually works pretty well too.
No, did you need that?
No, I think I'll use this one because it's a little cleaner. That was really specific to Cynthia Estates. I don't have another one necessarily with topography on it unless it's part of the actual plan submittal. And I'll do my best, but generally,
See, it looks like it splits the difference is the reason why I'm asking this question.
Here to talk about the north side because, literally there's hundreds of feet of wood that we're not going to impact as part of that. So I'm trying to understand exactly, I think it's this street here is what it's referring to, right? So let me kind of just draw it in here a little bit.
Yeah, because I was,
This one here.
yeah, this red section up here is the area that I'm concerned about.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't have anything. better delineate, but I believe he's referring to one of these lots here and the stream that comes through this way and skirts along here.
And I was wondering around this
Mhm.
specific wetland, specifically this aspect of it. Does this flow down into their land as well? And is that being mitigated to stop this erosion from increasing specifically here as a result of this wetland being disturbed?
Gotcha. It's good question. It looks like the high point is here roughly. So all of this, is going this way, this way, this way, even
Which-
our lots.
Which means that this would also be going this way as well,
Kind
potentially.
of, because it looks like I wish I had a better graph.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was kind of having a hard time reading the topography on this specific
It's
area here, because
very
it's much
difficult.
smaller even.
It's very difficult. It looks like there's another kind of spot here, but it's difficult to tell.
Are you able to see it on the TV?
I was gonna say, yeah, can you point it out on TV so we can all
Very hard to see.
understand the,
I was gonna say, I'll show you what we're talking about here. It's this space here, going this direction across here. This is the stream that runs down right through there. And so the question is, this specific wetland area that's being affected, is this water going to flow down this way, or is this water flowing down this way into the adjacent properties on this side? Or is it flowing back up and somewhere else it's off screen?
That's perfect, and I think I can explain it using this screen here. So again, didn't necessarily come prepared to have this conversation way up here off of.
Yeah,
where we're
I know
going.
it's still relatively early, but still.
But it's a good question, and I'll try to answer it as best I can. So this wetland in particular here, this is one big wetland, call it, right? One big wetland. And it is fed by everything up here.
Okay.
Leading into it, because it's the low spot, right, through
Yep.
here. This stream is over here. That's a high point, so it all goes this way. There's a little bit of a ridge here, and this is kind of where all that water is collecting from wherever up north, right? And then it pops out, all bleeds through there into this stream that cuts right through our site that we're trying to make sure that we're avoiding impacts to.
Okay.
This stream here, I mean, it gets some sheet flow, and it will off these lots because they'll all be lookouts. That's why we have a basin here to collect that storm water as much as we can, put it into here, which then obviously will go into this stream, ultimately come back onto our site and go that way. It's no different than this wetland, or there's one even way up here that you can't see that actually bleeds into this stream that comes all the way through here on the site. Another wetland that's pulling water from here that again all goes all the way through our site, and even one that's off screen that you can't see that goes over here to phase one. So all of this, for the most part, is coming through this system, through the wetlands, to the streams, all the way through the site. And you can just tell by the topography, again, how challenging all of this is, on top of having the streams and the wetlands and everything else to deal with. So I'm not an engineer, but I can positively say, after having looked at this and dealt with it with our engineers for so long, that really the way that this ecosystem, these wetlands and streams are working together, it's sending water this way.
Okay. All right. And I guess to that point, ultimately, because you also have houses that are going in that same space, then more than likely you will have water mitigation space there to catch water trying to go the other direction anyway.
Absolutely.
And that would redirect it probably to the stream directly south of that's on property and then down to your basin.
That's right. Everything that we capture on site, again, these are the rules, we have to provide for water quality and quantity, storage, which is why, again, it's challenging to find these basin locations and put them in the right spot so that we can drain it all to those and then slowly release it back off the site, just as it was before we developed the site, if not better. So it's important to know that we're not just taking our stormwater. We have 3, 4, 5 streams on our site. That's the water's coming from all around the surrounding areas, all going through our site. We're the ones that are taking on that stormwater fight. We're the ones dealing with all the topography and the wetlands and everything else, and trying to position, the infrastructure, so that the city, long into the future, has something that works, and doesn't cause issues that are gonna, make life difficult for not only folks in here, but for people living in our neighborhoods.
And then I think the other areas that I was gonna ask about for the water, those pretty well seem to flow in the direction of your property and into the streams related. So I think those are fine. Yeah. Also, I would simply state, I fully understand your situation. I understand the resident situations. Be careful of using compliance as a guard of saying we are complying with all the requirements, simply to say that, like, and you stated it, that you want to be a good neighbor. And so be careful, because that can sometimes come across as we're going to dot our I's and cross our T's, but we won't go any further. It's something that irks me a little bit with developers as a whole. When they start talking like that, I get like, well, yeah, but you're affecting a whole bunch of people in their whole space. Yeah, so that's it. That's all.
Ann?
No.
Anything else for the applicant here?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's the question.
We normally don't do that. But if it's brief.
Very, very brief. So Mr. West had a lot of time to make his case, and fully respect that. But just a couple of things. Several of us live in my homes, and what he says is not quite true. Once your 1-year warranty period is up, it's nearly impossible to get them back to make any corrections to anything.
Yeah.
With respect to scenic view estates, the way that the development was set up was to maintain the natural flow and ground of that property. So whatever is flowing today is the way that it's been forever. And scenic view estates is making no impacts that are any different to MI homes as they were today. And lastly, there was reference made to the plan being available online and the changes aren't being made. I would request that plan or that link be made available to us so that we can all review what was originally approved. And if it was originally approved, there are certain wetlands that were being maintained and now are being compromised. Why do we need to compromise those wetlands? They directly impact stream quality because they act as a buffer zone for the water runoff that goes down those streams. There's habitat that's living there. There's trees that are in those wetlands. When those wetlands are impacted, there's a huge impact as a result of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the applications of previous plans, I mean, those, are those available? I mean, with the one that we're looking at tonight is online, obviously, but the ones from the past are not typically maintained online, right?
I believe they're on the city's, I don't know if it goes all the way back to 2021, but they can always request them. We can provide this one.
Okay.
We do have them on record at City Hall.
Right,
so.
yeah, we've got all the files, everything. Okay, time for deliberation, comments, discussion amongst ourselves. Just a reminder, this is a preliminary plan. And they'll have to come back at some point in the future for the final plan approval, right?
Yeah, the final development plans for each section of development.
Yeah.
And that's after, and at that point too, the EPA will have their full study done too, correct?
Correct.
At that point?
Well,
Yeah, that'll be part of the construction plan.
Yeah.
So the next step is they have to do the site engineering for each section, which will include all the stormwater calculations and management plan. At that point, before they can move forward, they'll need to have all their EPA approvals in place.
Okay. And the EPA could say one way or the other. I mean, it's just after they have to see the plan to be able to make that statement, correct? Or make that assumption.
Correct.
Yeah, so to that point, in theory, we can say yes tonight to this preliminary plan, and the EPA says, yeah, we don't like any of these won't work for what we're trying to do, or offer something completely different, and they may have to come back.
Possible.
What would be the typical time frame? I know it's driven partly for a lot by MI homes and how quickly you would submit your applications. But what would be the typical time frame for all this?
For EPA,
Yes.
it's hard to say how fast the EPA is gonna work. For our construction plans reviews, usually I say like 5 to 6 months to get through the whole review, get the comments addressed, get everything figured out.
Okay.
Can't speak for the EPA.
Right, yeah, understood.
Got a rough time voting on this right now till we get that. I know it's preliminary, but
Till we get what?
till we get an EPA decision on
But
it.
we won't get it until it's approved or disapproved. I mean, you're not gonna get it. That's the hard part.
Their application wouldn't go in until they get past the preliminary.
The EPA
plan
won't do
approval.
anything on it until.
Okay. That helps me make it.
But one thing, we've seen this before too, that for the preliminary plan, we can have conditions on it, whatever the conditions might be. When it gets to the final plan approval, anything that was put on the preliminary as a condition has to be met. Don't correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's
correct.
okay. So anything we want to make sure is addressed before the final plan will be approved needs to be listed now as part of the preliminary plan. Just keep that in mind. I'm not calling any specific
No, I appreciate
requirements.
it.
Yeah, right.
But that just,
I got you.
because if we miss this opportunity and we get to the final plan approval, we can't say, oh, now we need to have this added because
You can't string them along.
yeah, if it isn't in the
Yeah.
preliminary plan,
Yeah.
And as long as we're not overwriting any codes that are already there, we can't go beyond that and say,
Exactly.
we want this.
Right.
It
Well,
has to
that's fine anyway,
follow
yeah.
our code, yes.
other discussion?
I mean, it is, there's a lot there. I mean, one thing about the scenic view, when they came, they gave us a beautiful layout and large lots. And, I feel for the group of people that live there because it was well thought out. And it was something we really appreciated but
Unique.
it was very unique.
Yeah.
But with MI, they are staying within the parameters. And I appreciate what you said too, that, be careful, but, at the same time, we have to, everything does meet, and Jack, they do meet everything within, they're not changing anything or anything like that. It all meets the codes that are there, correct? Please, they meet the code of everything that's inside our parameters of our code, correct?
Correct, except for those minor things that I had mentioned in the review, like need to see where the streetlights are gonna go and having a couple call outs dimension marked.
Mhm. So nothing that's being done in there is going to change code or beyond the code's
None of it would
restrictions.
be contrary to what Pataskala code says.
Thank you. You worded it much better than I did. Thank you.
Other discussion?
So are some of these lots already sold? Am I understanding that correctly?
What's that?
Are some of these lots already sold?
The ones, so sections 1 through 4, Forest Ridge. The outline in red there,
Yeah.
that's what already has a final development plan approved and is either been built or is under construction. Everything else would be future development that has not been sold yet or construction commenced.
Okay.
So they're not able to sell them yet because they don't really exist
Yeah.
legally.
Right.
I guess the question I have is, does anybody have any additional things that, as Rick said, is there anything additional that we wanted to put into this? Again, and for everybody out there, when we vote on this, we will always vote on a move to approve. That doesn't mean that we are voting, that we wish it does or wish it doesn't, but we will state that we move to approve it, and then we either approve it or vote it down. So I just don't want everybody to think that we're trying to slant it one way or the other.
Motions always need to be in the positive.
In an
Worded in a
approval
positive
state.
way, yeah.
Mhm.
So are you asking if there's any?
Yeah, is there any
additional
additional
conditions that we wanna add
conditions?
to?
Yes, sir.
Was there a study need for the wetland runoff?
Isn't that what the EPA is doing?
And possibly, yeah.
Yeah, would that be part of the EPA's process, is the runoff water? Would that be like a different organization that would manage that and have an approval point in this process to say that the runoff is going this direction or that direction, and it's this much versus this much?
But that would be covered under the cities.
The cities, yeah.
Okay.
And that was this one here.
You take a look at.
Public Service Department, is that the one you're talking about where it was in full comments attached? Yes, that one's, and then goes to this. Because I thought the same thing and started reading that one indefinitely. They put an overview in the notes as to what was, it's a great question.
That's as far as like the water itself running off. The EPA is more on the environmental side. The city was looking at where that water is going.
Right.
And it says the proposed changes, they are driven by the EPA's request to minimize effects.
From that river.
Yes.
The wetlands don't have, they don't have, it says, any kind of ecological activity. So they don't have a lot of wildlife there.
Mhm.
They're important, but they don't have, let me look at the amphibian breeding pool. That's the important one that they really look for. As far as wetlands go, I always get concerned about wetlands. My understanding is in Ohio, we've lost 90% of our wetlands. So they are diminishing, and it's very disturbing to me. But I think, I trust the Ohio EPA to do their job and mitigate it as much as possible and give us some recommendations. So as far as that goes, I really get concerned about the water quality. I think we all do.
You're right, Ann.
I cannot think of any additions to make off the top of my head, is what I would say.
The only thing that I would think is possibly having some requirement to look at the trees along the very property line. So kind of, we've talked tonight, heard about the grading has maybe affected the trees on section 4.
Mhm.
Should we also include a requirement for them to have, I don't know what you call a survey or something, but arborist survey to make sure that they're not, or that they're either not damaging any trees or they're identifying what potential damage might be there along the property line when they grade in the new sections. I don't know how you'd work that, but
I know.
something like that, I guess.
I think I would leave that
Try
to
to-
staff to make sure that it was worded properly. 'Cause
Yeah. Try to be preemptive, or, proactive, I guess is the word I'm looking for, instead of waiting for it to grade and then find, oh, gosh, we messed up the roots on those trees and they're gonna die. Let's look up ahead of time and see if there's some way we could avoid that issue. That's the goal. I'm trying to think of a way we could do that, if there's a way. Might be difficult to enforce, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the legal,
Yeah.
when you get into all the legal aspects of it, if you have a tree on your property and the roots go into your neighbor's property, what's the demarcation line and who's responsible for what? I don't know.
Well, it's the same as, a branch falls, or a tree falls, you got the same issue if it goes over the property line.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with, I guess, for lack of a better term, tree law.
That's.
I don't know how to write a condition. I mean, we could say you need to have an arborist go and survey the shared property lines and determine the current health of the trees, but.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, this isn't
requiring
going to be a
tree
simple
survey
issue.
with the final development plan, but
Unfortunately.
again, if the trees are on their property, there's not really anything that the city has the power to say they can't remove those trees. They are.
Yeah.
Right.
But I get them show at least what's there.
Yeah.
Offer a suggestion.
Yeah, and my concern is the trees that are on the adjacent property, I guess, right on the property line. Not, if the tree's on the property line of MI's property, I hate to see it go, but it's their right.
Yeah.
But it's the other ones that are right on the property line that the root system may go into MI's property, or those are the ones I was trying to.
Well, and that's
identify.
kind of like the one photo that Mr. Cutler, and it's a very good photo, and I appreciate these documentations because it helps us to understand what you guys have in your area. But I've also seen where, and this is something that maybe we need to discuss later in our landscaping portion, is because I've seen before, I mean, cut a lot of trees down and things like that sometimes, or dug a lot of holes, and you may be a foot over on your property line, you dig that hole, but when you snap that root, the root recoils back towards the trunk, and then it does appear that it was cut on the other side, and you just don't know. But the photos are very helpful, and I thank the public when they send us those photos, because it does give us something to look at. And that might be something that we address with an arborist down the road, that maybe we need to tweak our codes.
I was just gonna get mad.
You want to speak there? I was going to say, we could ask for a commitment from you to do that, but then we need to put it in the.
Kind of what I'm offering a little bit.
Yeah.
Because sorry, I don't necessarily think it needs to be a condition per se. Dimitri and his attorney have already reached out to us, like I said, and engaged us. So we'd be happy to continue those discussions with Dimitri and his attorney, with our attorney and our vice president as well, and then just work through this amongst ourselves. It seems like the proper way.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the photos or got to see, and I mean, they do pose a question.
Yeah, I've never said that was potentially a cause for it. So we'd be happy to keep discussions going with City View Estates.
Because again, they got a very unique area there, and they're proud of it, and they should be, because it was very well laid out. Thank you.
Then the question would be, I guess, go back, Scott, or how do we codify that in the as an amendment, or do we need to?
I guess there was, I think what we could do is the applicant will continue to work with neighbors to address concerns regarding potential treatments. So then it is a condition. So should this be approved, now we go section by section, and anytime, so next, arguably, if approved, now we're on the construction plans for section 5. So if those get approved, then what the next step is is you come for a final plan before the Planning and Zoning Commission. So they kind of a formal check out the box. Were there any conditions with the preliminary plan?
Right.
Did you address those? And two, were there any changes with your construction plans? What changed and why? And then if those can be addressed, then typically the final plan is approved. But if we make this a condition, in the general sense, the applicant shall continue to work with adjacent property owners to address potential impacts to trees. Then that just kind of keeps coming up through the process, so that can be kind of more of a talking point that if something breaks down, that can be addressed at that time. Or if it goes well, that can be addressed at the time, but it'll just keep it throughout the process.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
So I got the applicant will continue to work with the adjacent property owners, and then what's the rest of that, Scott?
I'll write that down.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask a question? That would be okay?
Someone wants to ask a question, if that's okay?
Would it be okay to ask a question on that? So if the condition is that that MI will continue to work with us, what happens if he doesn't work with us? And he, says, oh, we had a discussion, we decided not to do the tree. Is our relief then to go to a civil court and sue him then? Or what is the relief? I'm just asking.
I'm not an attorney and I can't answer that. I mean, that would be between your attorney and theirs. We can't answer that. It's a good question, but we just can't answer.
Is this only working with the neighbors of Scenic View?
This would be working
No,
with.
adjacent. We said adjacent.
What about like way up north where it's Harrison Township and Beechwood Trails? There's where that new cul-de-sac is that wasn't on the original plans. Is he gonna work with all those neighbors? Because we got a lot more problems with just trees.
Well,
Are you
I'm just
adjacent?
saying,
Are you adjacent to that property?
yes.
Okay, so that would be, they will continue.
I
So
just
the
know it's
applicant
not
shall
passed,
continue
so I didn't know if there
No,
was-
we have it, kind of a whole thing that.
Adjacent.
Property owner.
And the only thing I would ask is that you also add wetlands, not just trees, but wetlands to that resolution as well. Because
That's an
where it
AEP.
gets into the EPA aspect.
EPA, yeah, that's an
we
EPA.
can't- From a zoning perspective, I can't control that.
Okay. Because our wetlands, that wetland is.
And we understand that. And that would be something that you'd want to take up with the EPA. I mean,
thank you.
I would suggest, I don't know. I mean,
We just needed some direction.
I'm not, and that's where you do have some attorneys to ask those questions, because we do not know.
Okay, thank you.
But I would recommend that.
Okay.
Anything else then, while we're giving proper documentation?
You see
I'm
any?
gonna say it's adjacent, so if there's concerns, that can be addressed.
Excuse me, man, this comment one word, because it wasn't clear. I just have to do that, because we did contact them, and we did want to discuss damages. And I did contact personally, and what response I got, that they not want to discuss it, and they don't want to pay for it. This is why we got a attorney, that's why I chose this way. So it was completely misdirected. You guys did.
And we're trying to put some
Yeah,
provisions
just
in.
like, I didn't want to interrupt, but it just, it was a lot of misdirection, and I was quiet there, but I
Thank you, sir.
officially said that we
Yes.
what we talked about. It's clear answer. We're not gonna pay for everything, and we're not gonna talk about it. So that's why we're here.
I personally don't see any harm in tabling this for the benefit of
But
the
what-
homeowners, but I don't know that we have, if we did that, would it help them at all?
If we
Right.
table it, it's not gonna get any resolution
It's not
through the
gonna-
EPA, so we won't be any closer to
Exactly.
wetlands and stream,
Yeah.
which is.
Very right.
Thanks for mentioning.
It's a good point,
Yeah.
and I thought the same thing, but yeah, it
You'd
just
have to have
seems like
deliverables.
you gotta take the next step to get to where, then the
Nice.
next time we can take those kind of,
Yeah.
if we're not happy.
Any other discussion? Are we ready for motion? Go for it.
I move to approve an amendment to the preliminary development plan for application PP-26-001 pursuant to section 1113.14 of the Pataskala Code with the following conditions. The following three conditions, plus the addition of a fourth. The applicant shall continue to work with the adjacent property owners to address existing and future concerns regarding trees.
And the first three are as
They're already
the
listed
staff.
on the staff,
Okay,
yes.
So we have a motion to approve.
I second.
Thank you, David. Any discussion on that motion? And again, that's to approve the amendment with the four conditions now.
Mhm.
There's no discussion, ask for a vote.
Mr. Messina,
Yes.
Mr. Smiley,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes,
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Truax.
Yes.
that motion passes. We'll advance to the next stage. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Appreciate your
Thank you.
input. And we'll watch out when it comes back for final plan.
Thank you all.
This back to Scott.
We do have some additional business to take care of, so if you're going to have discussion, please step outside.
Yeah, it's the first time they meet you in person. That's the,
It's all pretty good.
yeah. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for tonight.
See you, see you. Until then.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then there was one.
Yeah, he'll come up in 6 then, right?
Okay, that was all of our new business. We'll move on to the other business. We have none on the agenda. I know Mr. Brush has asked for an opportunity to speak. We'll give you that opportunity. Keep in mind that this, I believe you said you were going to speak on the data center. That's not off the table, so we can listen, but we're not, it'll be part of the record, but,
I understand that.
okay.
That's where
Yep.
You swear or affirm the testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so be that.
I do.
Thank you.
Burning Garage, 5530 Columbia. Yeah, and I think that's part of the confusion, trying to get on the website and get the, what's on zoning tonight, and then get the agenda, and then, yeah, I see it says remain tabled. You got 3 of them on there. Now, I don't know the process, and, I've been 20 years, and so, how do you take it off? How do I know, should I come or not? What if the applicant comes in and says, I want it off the table, I got everything done? Because it appears to me what happened at the last time was they made a motion to table it. Now, they didn't say table it for 5 months, 6 months, or whatever, it's
Yep, we
just
don't-
table.
We don't
It's
put a
just-
time limit on it.
It's whenever you want to bring it back, so it's kind of like if I'm a member of the public, and I'm concerned about what's happening, I have to come to the meeting because I don't know what's gonna happen. Someone can get up or, the applicant. So that's all I'm saying, is that I don't know what, all the rules. That's one of the reasons I came.
Well, before you move on, we could address that part.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if it's ready to be taken off the table, the agenda that's posted online would say so, I believe. That's right.
We'll say that, yeah. And we can, otherwise, if it's not there, how,
Notice and everything.
can, I want to know two things. The applicant can come in and say, I want to get it off. You can't do that.
They have to do it by a deadline. There has to
There's
be
a
a
deadline.
lead time, so.
There's a deadline or something in order to get on. That's what I'm saying. So if it's gonna come off the table, the applicant is possibly can ask for it or whatever, and it would be scheduled to do it, and they would move, or you move ahead of time or whatever to get it on, meaning that it's not dependent on the planning commission approval or not. The applicant could come in and ask to take it up, to have action on it.
So typically how that happens is for every meeting, there's an application deadline. So for April, the application deadline is this Friday.
Right.
So if they want to move forward and have it removed from the table, we need a complete application by this Friday.
Okay.
Once we determine that's complete, then letters go out, goes to the newspaper,
And it'll get on.
and then we start the review
And that's for
process.
the applicant. So now my next question still is, can the planning commission itself, you've got something on there, let's say the applicant doesn't do anything for 2 or 3 months or whatever. That's what I want to know is how can the planning commission say, no, we've had enough time, let's just vote this up or down.
Typically what would happen is that if they say, hey, next month, I'm interested to hear from these people, then we can reach out to the applicant and say, hey, the planning commission is planning to take this off the table next meeting, make sure you're here. So we don't do a surprise.
Okay,
take it off the
okay,
table.
so still, it would come up that it's gonna be taken off the table, or it's gonna be actioned on the table, if it's said on the, it's not gonna say remain table.
Right.
Mhm.
Right, online,
That's
that's all.
it. To be removed.
Okay,
Yes.
I appreciate that. I think that's real quick. Just because of the data centers, it's not gonna go away, and we are the epicenter here in Pataskala, or the central Ohio. It's on all the news or whatever. I thought this was telling here, this was another Columbus suburb that's pushing back on data centers. That's West Jefferson. They took it off. They said that the reason that they banned it was the potential strain on data centers' electric and water needs would put on existing public infrastructure, noise pollution, limiting long-term employment opportunities, and council members' desire to preserve the village's character were also listed. Dispatch also had something, Heath and Hebron are both breaking ground, okay? But it is interesting in what they list on there, of what are some of the projects on the data center, is that, it's Google and Meta. Here's the big deal, because the question is, who's gonna pay for all the electric? Everybody's bills are going up. And you got bills in the State House, well, we're gonna do something about it. But it's like 6 months to do anything. You got this is on the radio now, you hear Meta and Google, they're saying that they are gonna pay, there's not gonna be any change. They're gonna take on the electric. Well, that's a good one. So they get it, they're saying that. Now, what about this one that's here, that's on your application? What is it, AP system, what do we call these people? Aligned data centers. These guys are just speculating, they're selling this thing. They're not coming up there, they're not gonna say that. They can't put that in. So I'm trying to say, okay, I wanna get it off the table. Vote for approval and either say yes or no. I think I've been here the 3 times. There's not enough information. You already said, we need AEP here to answer all these questions. They can't do that. That's why I'm saying it's speculative. They don't do it. And the number of, the jobs, 10 or 20, and you got 4 of them. I had this with Scott. I still don't understand how you can say planned manufacturing. They're not manufacturing anything. It's an energy consumption. The last thing I want to say is they don't know yet what's the health hazards or whatever in the area, the noise or the humming. Put that much electricity, like Manhattan, New York. They say by 2030, that's what we're going to have here. It has to be shortages, meaning that it's moving a grid, meaning you're only going to get electricity a couple of hours a day, no matter what, because they can't get that much energy here for what is planned already. I'm just saying, why don't we just take a deep breath and just say, let's just see how it goes. Let's see what everybody else does. But, we're kind of stuck with Microsoft or, Meta or whatever. They got some money and they say it, but put that on the contract someplace where they're going to pay for the electricity and it's not going to get passed on to the consumer, because right now, that's the way AEP is a distributor. So what do you think is happening right now? Why is your electricity going up? Because they have to upgrade the grid and they're told to get rid of all the old, the coal and the gas plants and whatever. Okay, I'm done, but I just want to get it off. I think we need to be concerned about data centers, and my point is, it's right in the middle of our community. And we're going to drive by it sooner or later, and everybody's going to remember that and go, yeah, this is what we got, and it ain't going to go away. And whether they build it or not, it's going to be ugly. I've looked at them. Have you gone down, what is it, 23 to Scioto Downs? All the way to Hill Farm. Remember, you used to go to Scioto Downs and you got the Hill Farm on both sides. It's beautiful. It's a data center all the way down. It's so ugly. Do you like going up to Morrison Beach?
Yeah.
What did you think New Albany did? That's where they pushed it. Let's push it all right on Pataskala. I'm just saying.
We do appreciate your input.
I'm
Thank
just
you.
talking. I'm not gonna be here that much longer, but I said someone's gonna be here. Remember me.
You're unforgettable, Bernie.
Thank you.
I think there's a song like that. But thank you very much, sir.
It's great. I love this community. It's just like everybody comes out here, you hear their story, they came out, this is their place, they want to stay and do it. And all I tell people, get involved. This is the last bastion. I mean, look what happened with Iran and the rest, and all the other countries. We're the only ones left with freedom to even stand up and speak.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, the other item, I have one for discussion under other business. And I know this came up at the last meeting where we needed a break and everybody kind of protested. I would suggest or throw it out here for discussion or consideration, don't have to act on it tonight necessarily, but we should make a standard practice documented that if a meeting goes beyond a certain point, we factor in a break, like a 5-minute break. And if it goes beyond twice that, we have another break. I mean, whatever that amount of time is.
Set an interval for it to say that, like
2 hours, 3 hours. I would say probably no more than that, but somewhere in that range. So it's documented that we can announce it up front. However long this goes, at 8:30, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
Or 9 o'clock, whatever, 2.5, 3 hours. That was just a thought that I had. That way, people know, and we can announce it ahead of time. They know it's coming. They won't think we're trying to spring something on them at the last minute where they would. But I mean, they may still not be happy about it. But
it becomes part of our procedure, and it's documented that this is what we do.
And then the other thing too, if we got to that point, and we could tell from the way the discussion's flowing that we're really close to finishing this item.
Like tonight,
we could defer it for a few minutes.
Yeah,
something like that. Like if we're already in deliberation or ready for a motion, we could say, all right, our 8:30 break, we're going to postpone until the end of this discussion, something like that. So give it some thought.
I like
Yeah,
that.
agreed. Robert's rules, don't we motion for recess?
I don't know.
And if that's required or not to go out of
Yeah.
session off the record. I don't know.
I'm not
We
sure.
don't do- so we
I'd
don't
have to check.
adopt Robert's Rules of Order,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Specific
Yeah.
motion of this might be useful, but.
I know when you brought it up last time, I even appreciate you doing, I was the one leading that charge. I needed to use the restroom.
I was right behind you.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here busting. And
I mean,
yeah,
Well, Robert's rules say you can't do that. You just have to sit there.
Robert's rules is going to have
We could have a lot of.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I think it needs to be addressed, and
Yeah.
I think it's a valid.
Just a thought, yeah.
I would like to just have a brief discussion. We're talking about data centers. Is there a mechanism for planning and zoning to make a recommendation to city council that city council should consider a moratorium on any new data center applications, not just this one, but any, until all the stuff that's swirling around in the Ohio State House and everything, until all that stuff kind of gets some direction?
From a zoning application, I don't know. I don't wanna.
I don't, not necessarily,
Sticky area.
I'm not sure that we would. You're just saying in general.
could we make a
not-
recommendation,
not
something
tied to
coming from us that goes to city council, that city council
Yeah.
could,
Not necessarily tied
Consider.
directly to an application, but
Yeah,
as a
not
general.
tied to an application.
right, it
I
just,
think if there was under other
can't
business,
just
you
say
could
other.
say the planning commission passed a notice stating this. And then I can pass that along as part of my council report when we do it, what happened at planning commission, here's what happened with this application. They also passed this motion stating this. So I think if it's separate and it's a standalone motion,
that's,
you know, I'm
that's
not
what I
an
was,
attorney, I don't see an
no, that's
issue.
what I was thinking, something along those lines. It's just a standalone, it's kind of a blanket thing that it doesn't address any particular applicant or client. It's just data centers in general that, can we ask council to consider a moratorium so that we have some breathing room so that we can make sure that we're coming from a place that's informed decision-making, and it's going to be in line with whatever the state is considering doing in the near term.
I think it's a separate standalone motion. If someone wants to, I don't know who's gonna lead the charge, or, if that's something that you wish to do, but we'll need, however, the verbiage that you want that motion to be, need you to send it to me or Lisa or Jack or Michaela, just so that when we do packets, we can say, hey, here's the motion, we have it on the agenda, I just need what that language is to the planning and zoning department.
I guess the only question I would have to that is, if they choose to take it off table, then they're putting themselves right in jeopardy of it being voted down and done. I mean, is that not the same thing as if they choose to have it taken off? But you're saying you want to put a moratorium where they can't even take it off.
No.
it's
No.
completely separate.
We don't want to consider
It would not
Any
affect the
new
current.
applications.
Well, I know that, but let's say somebody has an application and then,
Yeah,
let's
I don't think
go
it can be
forward.
retroactive.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
what if
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
grandfathered to that?
It would have to be an ordinance, so if this was passed, we go to council and say, hey, this came from planning commission, council then would then have to create the ordinance and pass
And
that.
pass it, yeah.
So you couldn't go retroactive.
That's what, yeah.
So any current applications would still be.
Future.
So it's still gonna happen. I mean,
Well, it would
'cause
still- it would still process.
this one's a,
It's possible that they will come back and,
right.
I'm sure they're going to
Right.
come back and sometime. try to
Or the
come back.
next, well, there could be another group that comes in with a whole new one, and then you can't do anything about it, is what I'm saying.
I would
Yeah,
welcome that.
All right.
The other thing I'd wonder too is
But it can
whether
happen.
that is, I guess we could do it, but if you strictly look at the city charter, does it call out that we would be able to do that kind of action? I mean, the duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission are tied pretty much to the applications that come in.
That
I
was
don't
my
know that,
concern.
and that may be a question for a law director. Could we even
I know
Would-
that
would
city
be-
council has already been requested to do a
Yeah.
moratorium.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if they've,
We as
But they haven't been
individuals,
requested one from us. So
Right,
I'm just
but I
saying
mean-
that, you know,
And we
if-
can't request on that exact.
Well, and to be fair, Rick, like, I mean, in theory, if what we're saying is that we can't make an appropriate decision without additional information on applications coming in, right?
right,
Then in theory, we're saying, hey, we need more information. They can't be provided because we don't have the information related to this. And there's a bunch of legal stuff happening and a bunch of changes going on in the space. We don't want to have to try to approve new applications that are coming in when there's so much chaos in the space. Like, I feel like that's within our purview to ask that kind of reprieve in that way. Right,
Yeah.
not that, because we're specifically asked for related to the application process. They're already here, they're already here, right? So like, no retroactive, but that feels in the purview of a request we can make, not that we can dictate, right? Because it's just more of an ask than
Right. We
a
can't.
formal ask.
We're formally asking and recommending to city council that they consider a moratorium.
Yeah.
To help us out.
I guess it's so broad. I just don't know how. I mean,
We would
then
eventually-
you say grass is too high. I mean,
There are a bunch of
where does
other
it stop?
municipalities all around us that are enacting moratoriums.
we would
So-
eventually need to write a new code for data centers because ours is woefully inadequate. So,
How you would regulate, I mean, you can look at data centers, but then it's,
that's what they're doing at the state level.
right,
Right.
And that's-
zoning code.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something to ask and let the law director
Yeah.
take a look at it and say, I mean, it's a good question. I think it's something to ask.
Mhm.
okay. Any other new business or other business, other business?
Not for tonight.
All right. Item 7, excuse of absences. We were all here last time, so nothing there. Approval of meeting minutes for February 4th. Everybody had a chance to look at those. Very extensive, and appreciate Lisa,
Yes.
did a good job there. Any corrections or additions?
No, sir.
Then I'll move that the minutes of the February 4th, 2026 regular meeting be approved as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Truett,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Smiley,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes,
Mr. Lucido.
Yes.
motion passes, and
I make a motion, we adjourn to Wednesday, April 1st.
Fool's Day.
do we have a second?
I second.
Vote, roll call.
Mr. Smiley,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Truett,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes,
Mr. Lucido.
Yes.
motion passes. I will be here, I'm planning to be here next.